Hello, everyone, wherever you are. I hope you are having a wonderful week so far. We're here with the latest episode of the Inside Crypto Show, interviews and discussion with regular people like yourselves. Today, we are joined by Gaurav Dubey. He's the CEO of TDefi. TDefi is a crypto incubator and advisor for blockchain startups, currently incubating and advising DeFi, NFT, gaming, and crypto projects for over 45 companies. Gaurav recently spoke at various conferences around the globe over the last 30 days, most recently at the Crypto House during the WEF 2022 in Davos. We have to do the usual disclaimer: anything said by either Gaurav or myself does not constitute financial advice. Our opinions are our own and not to be connected with our organizations. Please do your own research. Because it's just Gaurav today, we get to dive a bit more into his background before we get into the crypto. Gaurav, thank you for making time for us. Tell us about yourself.
Hey, Kiran, and the audience, whosoever is listening from wherever, the beauty of podcast and technology. Thank you for having me here. My introduction, really, in respect to TDefi is small. Like you said, we're an incubator. I've spent 13 years in running a technology incubator here in India, and we mostly work for tech-enabled companies and charge them in sweat, basically equity, and no cash. So the model is not just having skin in the game, but diving deep into the game along with the founders. And that's how we've always found you can help startups with your experience and expertise. Long story short, I started off crypto in 2015 while creating a micropayment solution over testnet of Stellar Network. And since then, it's been a joyride. Myself being a serial entrepreneur out of crypto. And before that time, I've made and sold telecom companies, advertising companies, and failed in, I don't know, 17 plus ventures. When I started off with crypto, we were making solutions on Stellar Network and Ethereum at that time, even Bitcoin, Dogecoin. I know it's a bigger issue today, but at that time it was just an alternative network protocol with a cheaper fees. And even Litecoin, our name rather lost in the last 2 years. So along with that, we were mining big time in central Washington state in the US at a place called Wenatchee. We had a 7 megawatt Bitcoin mining facility, a 5 megawatt Ethereum mining facility. We made and sold colos, data center. I know both are the same, but as a business, they're different, I would say. We also made and sold companies that were proxying hash rates, not getting into details. We started an OTC from Bulgaria, Sofia, buying it from the gaming companies, from the casinos around the world and selling it into the Gulf region where it was at quite a premium to get them for the locals. Along with that, accumulation and selling came obviously as a part of the business. To cater to that and to hedge our risk and to actually optimize our profits, I started off a trade bench back here in India that was hedging our active profits. Hedging does not mean losses here because we were actively buying in cash markets and selling it in secondary markets. So that's how our trade bench came into existence. And there's a reason I'm telling you the long tail, because later when we'll comment about what TDefi does and how, all of this experience would really make sense on how beautifully all of that experience has taken shape and is working really well for our incubated and advised companies. In words of Steve Jobs, the dots make sense backwards, right? So I'll connect the dots, and this is what I'm trying to do, establishing those dots. So yeah, this trade bench scaled to 30 screen traders, 8 quant traders, some of the best in the world from companies like Edelweiss, Futures First, so on and so forth. And then obviously investing never stopped. So we were investing actively right from the accumulation of Ethereum, Ripple, Stellar, and whatnot. We started investing from the first ICO ever, which was the DAO on Ethereum, and then it just never stopped. Today we are everywhere from Augur, Gold, Tron, 0x, the list is endless. Polygon, you name it, right? Gari, even today the list goes on and on. And then finally, I ended up taking the front seat of one of my portfolio companies, which was a crypto accelerator called TDefi. And now I'm the CEO and basically running the show here at TDefi because it's my passion to work with startups and give them shape and help them not fail. As better said by Einstein, I know 599 ways how to not build a bulb. If it was Einstein who built the bulb, I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, but right with references. So yeah, that's what we are doing today. TDefi has, like I said, 50 plus companies. We help them with token engineering, token structures, and take them to the market, launch pads, exchanges, and market making assistance and advisory. Along with that, we have a huge ecosystem that adds value, both in consumers, marketing, tech, and everything else that they would need. So we are an A team that stands right next to the startup throughout their journey, initially as incubation and then as advisory.
Nice. Wow, you're one of the very sort of special, unique guests. I kind of like people who have like boundless energy. So for this type of guest, I always have to ask because this is a common question we get from people who like email and tweet at me. They're like, okay, how does X person do so much? Like you've done so much in the last decade, more than that, in so many different sectors, and now you're advising so many people. I mean, that's going to take up a lot of your time and energy. And where do you find the time to get all of this done?
In again, words of some of the most wise people we have had in our history, time is more about organizing and less about really consuming time. I actually take pride in saying that I remain free. I'm free a lot. I'm sorry to take external references, but this is the only week I'm working in the last 1 month. Before Monday, I was on a meditation retreat along with the management of all my companies, more than 8, 9 people, CXOs. We were in a meditation retreat. I'm working for this week. And after this, we are going on a road trip to the highest roads in the world in the Himalayas for 15 days. We actually take pride in saying that we are free. And with a free mind, you can actually do all of this stuff, structure it well, organize it well, and look through it. Now, regardless to say that none of these accomplishments are entirely mine, these are partners, entrepreneurs, friends, team, as we call them today. So I've been maybe the trigger for the expression later called an enterprise or a business, but the credit goes to the team that has accomplished it. And yeah, and obviously, when you have a dependable team, when you have people who are passionate about what they're doing and they know what they're doing, all they need from you is a little assistance and routing in the right direction, some connections, a little finance here and there, some expertise, which I have as an infrastructure from the last 13 years, like I said. So it just works seamlessly.
Nice. Another question I have to ask as well is what is that? Again, it's something people always ask. What is that sort of thing that propelled you into the crypto space? Listeners to the show know for me, it's just I love technology and computers. And so I started mining. What made you start off with Stellar? What made you say, okay, I'm going to deep dive into crypto?
The funny part is, I was in the tech incubator. We had this online advertising company. We call it a closed loop online advertising company. It's pretty deep on enterprise tech. And the second thing is that it's micro transactional. So it's hyper retail. So we were doing like $200,000 a day in revenue in tickets of $5 to $25. You can imagine in 2015, the payment networks were not as advanced. Even today, they're not as advanced. So every week we had a payments network shutting down on our face. So my struggle was not limited to tech. When you have that kind of equity in a startup, although you signed up for tech, you end up doing everything in your capacity because you are an equal owner, right? You have humongous amount of equity in double figures. So believe me or not, I was really sucked up into solving payment issues. I was in Hong Kong, Singapore, meeting with payment providers day and night. Somebody in my reference, in my friend circle, told me, oh, a fellow Indian is the head of product at this project called Stellar. And he's been a friend to me. I can introduce you to him. And the system, Stellar, it can enable micropayments at a fraction of a cent. And I said, wow, that sounds amazing, but too good to be true. Let me throw this to my technical team. I'm sorry, I'll have to tell this tale because it's funny and important, but you have to go through the elaborations. Now, without even me knowing, my team coordinated directly with the team at Stellar. We implemented it. Actually, none of those people are now in Stellar. So they implemented it and they started. I know nothing about the launch. I know nothing about what happened in those days. One fine day, I was told by my partners, because I'm less of a internal finance person, so I don't actively look at the books. And my partner said, dude, you have something called Stellar of about $400,000. And we are a cost intensive business. We are a rotation intensive business. Why is all that money logged? How do I get to touch cash? So now I call the Stellar business head. And at that time, and she tells me to go to this place called Poloniex. And I said, okay. I logged in and I said, this looks like some sort of a stock exchange. It has charts, it has trades. She said, yeah. I said, okay. And 5 minutes after that, I call her back again and I said, I see nothing but something called Bitcoin here. And that's a similar shit. I don't get to touch USD. How do I get USD or cash or whatever? And she says, I'm sorry, I can only help you till Bitcoins because you have to deal in your own region to find that. So long story short, it took me 4 or 5 days in between my schedule of running around the world to figure out how to sell BTCs. I ended up paying my vendors a year in advance if they would accept Bitcoin because I was obviously not sure what it is. But sooner than later, I was trying to understand it. The technology person in me went on to read the white paper. And like you said, the hardware guy and the engineer in me immediately understood mining. That was my first thing. I told you I made and sold telecom companies. So mining was just about natural to me. And I made a telecom company in India. So the hardcore infrastructure was built by me. So I knew almost everything about power supplies, about solar energy, about DC equipments, everything. So when I looked at it and I saw, dude, I can straight away optimize on 16% energy by eliminating power supplies, this, that. And that's how we started. And like I said, since then, as soon as we touched money through crypto, never looked back again. We were sucked into crypto.
Nice. I like it. That's like the perfect segue to get into what we're going to talk about today. And before we talk into it, I think we have to talk about the current state of the industry. And this week is supposed to be like a critical week for US GDP data, company stock data from Google to Apple, recession probably, even though maybe more rates hikes. How do you think the macro environment, or how has the macro environment affected what you're doing at TDefi, incubation, advising companies, and especially in the startup scene? It's been in the media. Oh my God, startups, the situation is terrible. Valuations are down. Hiring is frozen. Like, how has it affected what you're doing?
Thank you for moving the question to a TDefi because I'm sick of discussing the macroeconomics. How can people take on such a huge topic except for gossips? Right? I would say let the market roll as the way it would. But to address your question specifically, how has that impacted TDefi? I'm sorry for the market and for the loss of everyone, but this is an amazing state of business for TDefi because when the markets are in a good state, anything and everything that you launch in an emerging segment or an emerging category of business like crypto, it flies through the roof. And that makes the startups or the entrepreneurs think that whatever they know is enough to run the company while it's not, right? But it's these state of markets, these critical states of market, when they realize what they know is just their product. They know nothing about a publicly traded asset, which is a crypto coin, right from the first day. They've never taken a company IPO. They've never seen the processes and the complexities around a publicly traded asset and a larger trading market. And it's a beast in itself. There are endless examples of crypto coins that don't have a product and are doing amazingly well. And then there are so many, I think, endless examples of projects that have a good product, a working product, a good use case, but because the token is not performing well in the market, they have almost zero adoption. So in a way, your token price, your markets tell a tale of your success. Now is the time when they get to know that. Now is the time when they're more open to listen to somebody like us. They're able to hear out to the people who are talking good about us, who have had a good experience. They're looking at projects that are directly correlating with the high and lows of Bitcoin, which is actually quite a solid move in a market to be, right? Because traders begin to trust you. You're in the eyes of everyone because you have direct correlation with Bitcoin and so on and so forth, which is a part of our advisory on how would you do that, how would you align yourself to the broader markets. In short, we are flooded with high quality projects. I have to use this full statement because we are always flooded with applications. At any given point of time, we have a wait list of 200 projects. But right now, those 200 projects are projects that are listed on Binance, projects that are listed on tier one exchanges, product. In fact, the product that are listed alone is way beyond incubation state, but they let go of their ego. They understand that the incubation does not means here that we are incubating their business because they're pretty mature there. We're actually incubating their token. So yeah, we are doing really well. We're very happy. Can't complain. All thanks to God.
Just to follow up, right? Like you said, there's a wait list for people who would like to be incubated, like advisory services. How would someone go about applying to be incubated via the TDefi site, or is it not via the site? Is it contacting you personally? Who should they contact?
I just told you in the beginning of my conversation, I am absolutely not working. Yes, I do at the hours I'm supposed to, and everything works when things are organized. So the best way and the only way to apply at TDefi or to begin with TDefi is to apply on the website. Even those who know me personally, like I said, I'm a fairly available guy. My number, my WhatsApp, my contacts are everywhere. I'm actively attending conferences and I don't fail to share my contact at all. But even if you contact me directly and we end up having a call, you eventually have to sign up that application form, because that's where we ask the right questions. That's where we judge you on the basis of the benchmarks that we have developed over time based on our experiences of dealing with startups. Yeah, again, one line to answer your question: the website is the only place to start dealing with or engaging with TDeFi.
Okay. Another question, not on the script, because a lot of what you said is so interesting. It just got my mind spinning. I'm like, oh, I have to ask these questions. Another thing I've seen as well when it comes to the startup space is that people are saying, okay, with the market downturn, startups are going to be failing. So how are you making sure startups don't fail? How are you making sure your startups don't fail? Because that's all I read, like maybe not this month, but like May, June, when things were looking pretty bad, people are like, wow, the crypto startup space has gone from 100 to 0 or something like that. Like what can startups do to survive this sort of period?
Okay, disclaimer: we don't guarantee success. No one can guarantee your success. There's so many moving parts of a business that almost nobody controls, and then there are some that you can control. I would like to quote the spiritual side of India, and being a Hindu from India, we are all Gita readers. We all follow Lord Krishna, and the entire summary, like the summary of entire teachings of Krishna, is that you can only do what is in your capacity and you should do it. The result is still based on the powers in the existence, right? Everything else, the result is not under your control. This is the philosophy we have at the core. We do our best, we advise them with everything we have got. I use this statement pretty commonly over my calls. So for an average startup founder or an entrepreneur, it might be his first, fifth, 10th, or even 15th venture. For me and my team, it's my 50th this month. We're dealing with so many startups on a day-to-day basis. I have a team of 100 plus people here. We have so many spokes. They're going on calls with these projects. We know which marketing company they're dealing with. We know where are they failing. I know where are they doing what works, what tech works, which protocol is answering, which studio in the world is not responding, which VC is actively investing. So at the top in TDefi as a knowledge center, we are able to plot the ecosystem and we're able to make the best suggestions. So we're doing all of that in terms of partners, ecosystem collaborations, whatnot, and also helping them with their markets, the right decisions, treasury management, showing them and giving them examples, making them talk to people who are doing the same mistakes or doing the things right in their segment. So we do everything from our side, the rest. And then there's another important part, by the way. Some of our advices are really tough to adhere by a project from where they come from, and they don't follow it at times. That also happens. I take it as a very good sign, because so far in the last 2.5 years, whenever they have not followed it and they have failed, they would come back to us and say, let's say, apologies and sorry for not trusting you on this and not following it, whatever. But you know what? With this small incidents in a fairly early stage of their life cycle, they now are fixed and settled for the fact that they have to listen to us. So, like I said, the first thing is we give them all the best we have in terms of resources, advice, and network. Second, they listen to us or they don't. So that's also another variable. And the third, like I said, was my first point: we don't control the rest of the world. We don't control most of the parts of a startup, of an enterprise, to make it success. Yeah, that's how it works largely.
One of the things I wanted to talk about as well, because it was suggested, is the idea of tokenization. And we've had one or two guests talk about it before, but like for people, we do have some people who are really not into crypto who do listen to the show. What is tokenization and why should non-crypto people be excited about it?
I'm repeating my words from a recent interview because I just don't have a better example. We invented fire as humans many years ago. It used to light up from the bottom, it goes towards the top, and it heats up whatever is on the top. That was the primitive form of heat of fire. Today, 2022, fire is not at all the same. We are using fire inside our engines. The combustion still happens, but you never get to see it. It happens a gazillion times a minute, right? We have fire inside a tube light, which is not even in tungsten. It's ionization energy, ionization light. Fire has changed shape and size, and you can even have fire now from the top, heating up everything at the bottom through induction and radiation. So something as primitive as fire has evolved into so many innovative use cases and actually has lost all the characteristics of the primitive form, only to be more usable. I take tokenization as a similar example of evolution of equities. So equities were a primitive way of value accretion, right? If you create an organization and the organization creates value, the instrument that accrues that value at the center to make the organization structure better and align incentives was equities. Now, it was a primitive way we invented it, I don't know when, and it just kept on working. Tokenization is the next level of equities. Everything that was wrong about equities is covered. Now, I'm not saying that we can get into arguments about how equities are better and whatnot. We had similar arguments when we were switching from a stone wheel to a wooden wheel, and then from a wooden wheel to an iron wheel, and then to spokes and whatnot. That will keep happening. We have all seen the famous FTX ad where when somebody keeps abusing innovation. Tokenization is in the same state, and we all know that finance and people in finance are the most stubborn people, right? So probably they would never accept this, but these are my words and my perspective. Tokenization is evolved equities. When two companies having equity value system had to work together, we used to call it, let's say, merger and acquisition or something like that. It used to take, months and even years, depending on the size of the company, for them to collaborate. In tokenization, you simply buy exact amount of tokens, probably in pennies. That would be enough to run the smart contract. You bring another token of another project that has to work together with this use case, and the resultant is not predictable. It's sure because this will collectively run a smart contract. It's transparent, the result is predictable, like absolutely freaking predictable, right? Assured return in a way of outcome, not return. And what can be better? We at TDefi as an ecosystem, we bring so many companies together, not just our portfolio companies, but also our applicants, random companies that come to us, approach us during events. And I am always surprised, happily surprised, to see how quickly they can collaborate, because there's no paperwork to be signed. The collaboration, the everything is so pretty seamless. You can just go in because there's nothing to hide. It's all blockchain. It's all visible, transparent. All the properties of blockchain, innate properties of blockchain. So yeah, I'm very passionate about tokenization and the way it's evolving. And let's also understand that tokenization is still in early stages. So yeah, we are still waiting for the best use cases and the best utilities to emerge in the coming time. That's tokenization. To quickly cover up and how it does it affects people's life right now, the killer app of crypto and tokenization is still finance. Let's be honest about it. We haven't really disrupted a lot of other industries. We have supply chains, all of that, but I'm only talking about common people here, very common people. The biggest power that it brings is that equity and everything was available to sophisticated investors and accredited investors, as you would call them, and people of the West and Silicon Valley, so to say, although I don't mean it literally, but you know what I'm saying. Right now, a random guy in India, in South Africa, in Sri Lanka, in Pakistan, in wherever in the world with an internet connection can be a part of an innovative project, right? It can own a part of that company and be a part of their success, of their vision, of their achievements. It's that simple. And actually actively monitor everything because, again, it's a smart contract, it's a community driven business. The cult is set straight. It's not your usual equity companies who would come out with a quarter report and then a yearly report, and then still you wouldn't actually know what is happening because they're probably not, they're actually actively trying to hide it. Here in crypto, the first thing that they come out with often is news before it actually happens. So yeah, my perspective about tokens is that yes, it's still evolving, but wait till the time it takes over the world.
Nice. Very inspiring. I like it. One of the things, like we were talking before the show about India as well, and India and regulation and the way the market has come down, people like, okay, crypto needs regulation. And India made headlines, right, with the 30% tax on crypto transactions, something along those lines. Besides India as well, like, what do you see for regulations? What's happening in India? How has the crypto tax affected companies there? What do you think is going to happen for the next 1 to 2 years, not just in India, but in the world when it comes to regulation?
Let me break your question into two parts because one is about India and one is the rest of the world. It's really unfortunate to observe what is happening in India right now because India is not able to create or to take a definitive stance on crypto so far. That is making everyone dealing in cryptos, especially the startups, to move out of India. We have seen a major migration in my network. I don't know anyone creating a crypto project in India. The common perception here on ground is that you have to move out of India if you have to create a crypto project. That's sad. We're talking about thousands and thousands of projects moving out, and all of that value could have created jobs, resources, and a whole bunch of reserves for the country. But they're lost. I'm sure they have valid reasons to do whatever they're doing. I do understand that it's a wide and a big democracy and a tricky economy to deal with. And I'm sure that the government and the regulators are wise enough to understand the loss they're making not regulating crypto vis-a-vis the profits or the loss they are avoiding regulating it, right? The broader and the global ecosystem of crypto is evolving at a tremendous speed. There are countries that have gone above and beyond the common narrative of crypto. They are now aiming to be the epicenter of crypto and blockchain. Countries like UAE, especially the Dubai region, they have launched a virtual asset regulatory authority, which is big. We've all seen the evolution of Switzerland. I was in Switzerland meeting a lot of government officials of various cantons, and they're like super pro crypto. Like they love crypto. Obviously, they hate the fraudsters, and they're very selective about what's coming there, which is actually a good narrative. They know what they're dealing with. They know how to and who to choose. And then recently, Singapore and Hong Kong announced their welcoming attitude for cryptos. So I think, yeah, in the next 2 years, we'll see a whole new version of a few countries where they become pro crypto, like El Salvador. I'm also expecting a few more countries to make Bitcoin a legal tender, especially after the shift of petrodollar economy, the perceived or the prospective shift of petrodollar economy with the state of energy in Europe and Russia. I'm very positive about the upcoming crypto regulations and crypto economies and the widespread adoption for so many different reasons.
One of the other things I wanted to chat about as well was the idea, and again, this is like you mentioned mining, I mentioned mining. Mining is a very hot topic amongst some people, amongst regulators. Emphasis on hot, global warming. You people who are watching this on YouTube will see me like dab at my mustache there, because even though I have the AC on and I have a fan on in this room, it's still pretty hot in the northern hemisphere at the moment. Europe, Taiwan, India, Middle East, of course, America as well. How is crypto sustainable? Some people say it is. There are people doing green mining, of course, and that's another issue. But is cryptocurrency sustainable? Is it gonna survive the sustainability, green design, environmental push that's happening in the world?
My God, this is such a primitive question that is still sustaining in this industry, right? Not to you, the comment is not to you, but to the ecosystem. Every single day, I read so many posts, so many articles about the sustainability, man. And for a purpose, I can definitely give a better answer, but I want to quote the same answer that I've been using on conferences since 2015. The first time I gave this answer from the stage was in a crypto conference in India, in Delhi, right? So to run a single bank, and I gave that with figures, I obviously don't have them handy right here. There were more than 29,000 branches of a bank that I quoted from the stage, right? ICI Bank. Each of these bank has a minimum of five and a whole bunch of computers and a whole bunch of electronics. So the average consumption of a day ranges beyond 100 units, which is a kilowatt hour, multiplied with 29,000, right? Then there are major branches that have more than 20 ACs and so much more consumption, right? Multiplied by 10. Every city has it, right? Every major city, which is more than 200 in the country, they have it. And then there are state level branches and country level branches, which are buildings of 200 rooms and enormous air conditioning. I can't even imagine the amount of energy consumed. And we are talking about one of the 30 banks of just India as a nation. I'm not even talking about the rest of the world, right? I'm not talking about gazillions of ATMs. I'm not talking about everything else that we have on the name of infrastructure to move value. And now we have a system, and I'm only talking about Bitcoin here, which is the most accused non-sustainable, unsustainable crypto asset. It is moving billions of dollars of value on a daily basis. It is storing hundreds of billions of dollars in value stably, very respectfully, custody wise, no extra cost. You're talking about, again, evolution of value, and you're not even giving it the scope of at least a bank. An average bank would end up consuming more energy. And obviously, the example ranges back in 2015. Today, Bitcoin mining has become a little too big to quote it or compare it to a single bank system. But what I'm trying to say is, look at all these mining facilities. A majority of crypto mining happens on the energy that can't be used for any other purposes. It's lost or failed or whatnot. Secondly, what else would you do with these resources? So a bunch of miners are using flare energy for mining. We all know that a majority of mining happens in Iceland, where these hot water springs and all of that natural resources, absolutely green natural energy is being utilized. I don't think energy consumption is a big deal to be considered here, looking at the evolution, looking at the invention and innovation that Bitcoin brings to the nature of value, to the movement of value and store of value. I think it's insignificant. But as always, a bigger answer has a bigger but. We're talking about Ethereum moving from proof of work to proof of stake. Today we have chains like Polygon, Solana, whatnot. Almost every single chain today is made on proof of stake or consensus protocols rather than using proof of work. Yeah, that's how it began. That's definitely not how it ends. And we have the rest of the market, apart from Ethereum and Bitcoin, is not using that amount of energy. And CBDCs, which is one of the major conversations or topics, will definitely not use proof of work. So I think the future of crypto is absolutely unpegged to energy related unsustainability, or I would rather say any sort of unsustainability. But yeah, and very soon, who knows? Who knows? We all might agree, the consensus of Bitcoin might agree for a proof of stake tomorrow, right? It's just about 51% voting. And God knows what does quantum threat brings to the change, because Bitcoin is only safe as long as the quantum computer don't start attacking the network. I'm sure they have better jobs to do when they have it, but who knows? And at that time, I think the Bitcoin network will definitely have to make a strong shift. And that would be the time when I think we would be able to find that consensus to make a major shift. And around that time, who knows, we adopt proof of stake. Quite possible.
Very possible. And I saw something really cool today. It was on Twitter. They said Bitcoin, the network that has the best uptime, and it was like 99.94321%. I'm like, that's true. Like, Bitcoin network is reliable. Crypto networks are reliable about the state of blockchain technology. Gaurav, I want to bring this back to TDefi. We're nearing the end of the show, and you've said so much really nice, very comforting things. For sometimes when I even have doubts after being in crypto for so many years, what coming back to TDefi, what should be looking out when it comes to TDefi? Is there anything exciting you want to share with our listeners? Should people be following TDefi or following yourself on Twitter or somewhere like that? Like, what do you want people to take from this podcast?
I would begin with a joke, right? During the pandemic, when I was more free than usual, actually getting bored, and people pushed me a little too much to be on Twitter. They said it's the mecca of crypto, you have to be there. My first post, I guess it's still pinned on my wall, and it says, "Hey guys, here I am on Twitter today, only to be not available here as well, like other social networks," right? Yes, I do retweet updates from our portfolio companies, like probably a few posts a month. So I don't know. You can follow me if you don't want to get disturbed more often by a not so active social media guy. Yeah, you can definitely follow the official channels if you want to know more about the projects we are working with and their updates. The fact you have to bear in mind about us that I come from a decade plus of equity, angel, private equity investing, all sorts of categories of private equities, and the whole team is pretty institutional, right? So you can call us old fellows in respect to crypto. We're not degens. So the projects at TDefi are not degen projects. We usually look out for a value system. We look out for a problem that they're solving for the world, for an extraordinary approach or an extraordinary found. And we're not incubating meme coins. We're not incubating whatever fat ass DeFis that are not really DeFi. I don't want to take names, but we know what happened when we grab CeFi solutions by the name of DeFi. We've all seen the bursts. Yeah, I want you guys to follow us to understand our perspective about not being degens and about what we perceive and we vision in the crypto and our vision in the crypto space. And then I think with the audience that are in a startup or planning to build a startup or working with a startup, I would quickly want to give them a rundown of what we offer. Obviously, it's a very broad service list, advisory list, and we practically cover everything apart from your product. So you've got to have skills related to your product about developing it, marketing it, and whatnot. But our services primarily are tokenization. Like I said, when I say tokenization, obviously we are incubating token projects, so we expect them to know tokens and come to us with a token structure. But having that decade-old business experience, we dive deep into a business. We restructure it if required, and if they want it, we thread down the utilities of this business into various forms of token rotation, which can be fees, which can be simple rotational transaction, that can be velocity of the tokens in the market, that can be transactional velocity in the trading market, or wallets. There are so many use cases that the token brings, or even loyalty structures where the token can be held. I don't want to quote staking here because I'm not a big fan of staking altogether if it is only to stop sales. But yes, we structure the entire token utility, velocity, and everything that's called token engineering and tokenomics, right? From there on, we help you get ready for a fundraise, bring the right aspects of your business to the surface. We introduce you to our investor network, which is pretty big. We introduce you to Launchpad, even, and then finally start helping you to get through the right exchanges. There are a lot of bad players in this space. Sometimes you are just, Jack said that sometimes it's just fine to be able to live because others are dying. In crypto, more often than not, projects are killed by the wrong decisions and the wrong partners they choose, which is, like I said, one of the biggest value propositions we bring. Dealing with 50 plus projects in a month, we have the right knowledge and data points about most of the vendors for marketing, KOLs, PR, tech, market making, all the moving parts of a crypto business, right? So we start connecting them to all these partners, exchanges, and whatnot, and save them from taking wrong decisions. And then finally, we advise them on their markets, on their inventory, on their treasury management. If they want to raise funds later after the token is launched, how should that strategy work without affecting their markets and their public investors? How should they grow their community? So that's everything about token. So the punchline here is, you do what you do best is your manage your project. We do what we do best is manage your token, right? So that's the primary proposition. Secondary, we expose them to larger markets. We do big events around the world, an average of 10 events a year. And in all these events, we are co-hosts or the primary partner of the event. So we have the biggest presence in all these events. And our presence is not having a TDefi stall, but basically having a TDefi pavilion. In this pavilion, our projects are exhibiting, right? So that the world looks at these projects as a house, as somebody with a backing, and the collective reputation of the projects of TDefi, where we have a few unicorns, a few projects with $500,000 valuation, and so on. So the reputation covers up the house. So the new projects get this reputation and make the most out of it. Now, this pavilion, the TDefi pavilion, while it's exhibiting its project, it also has an ecosystem lounge where we bring our entire network of investors, partners there. We often do big hackathons. Last year we did BizThon, and the best projects from that BizThons are today backed by FTX and Binance and top-notch investors. So we do very high quality hackathons called BizThon. So projects that are super early and don't stand a chance in the incubator application can actually also access us through BizThon and participating in the hackathon. Yeah, events presence, ecosystem partnership, and then everything in advisory across the board in the longer cycle. We stand next to you as your compliance advisor for your banking. We have good connections with crypto banks, so we help you with your bank account and finances. In the last few months, we have also saved our projects from a few scams and a few shark deals that were derogatory for the project. Very soon, you'll see our articles coming out in the major media outlets. So basically, from here, the list is endless, where we come in and sit next to you as partners. And to give you an example, there are a few projects that were incubated 2 years ago with us, and we still end up spending 40 hours a month with them even today. So that's that. And our compensation is just one time, one off, initially asking you for a small supply of your tokens. And after that, it's a no incentive, no compensation structure. All these vendors, partners, they work with you directly. There is no commission that we charge from you or them. And hence, you have a TDefi discount with most of our partners because we're not charging them that money. So, yeah, that's largely it. I'm sorry for the long explanation, but I thought this was my chance to express
No,
our services,
perfect
to
chance.
shill.
Yeah, you have to. And it sounds very important because we've had, Jesus, this will be episode 85. We've had like more than that, 180 something videos. That's tons of really small projects, people who look for advisory services, don't know where to get it, don't trust it, or have tried advisory services and have had bad experiences. So it's nice for people to understand what a good advisory services company actually does. So I really appreciate
Well,
that.
our portfolio talks about it pretty loudly. Like I said, from Vulcan Forge to Bridge Network, we have all sorts of tier one companies. And the new ones that are being signed are a few hundred million in their equity valuations with Microsoft and Ubisoft. And these kind of companies, partners to them. Our recent incubations in the last 6 months are just about amazing. You can find them on our website and a few more announcements coming soon. So yeah, they can at least be assured that we're doing something good and not one of those scammy advisors simply by looking at our portfolio.
Nice. And I will have all the links to TDefi and to yourself as well in the show notes on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. And once again, Gaurav, thank you very much for your time. I think it's still pretty early, so maybe you can enjoy some dinner. It's about almost 9 p.m. for me over here. I hope you have a good evening, and then hopefully we can get you back on sometime at the end of the year to see how has 2022 rounded out, and that would be great to have you on there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Priyan. And it was a lovely conversation. I enjoyed it too. The questions were well placed and specific. So yeah, would love to engage more as and when you want me to.
I'd love to have you on. Thank you again.